Trump declared tariffs across the world, as a result of which the US markets, while they were falling all of March, after the tariffs went into play, on Thursday and Friday, they really took a turn for the worse, even worse than the COVID fall. So it's pretty drastic. That's also going to have an impact on global markets. So Indian markets, Chinese markets, all of them are going to be responding as well. There are retaliatory tariffs which have come into play, because of which the China market is going to fall. There are rumors that Europe is going to be retaliating as well. And so in general, there is going to be a period of upheaval, bearishness, falling markets, uncertainty going ahead, right? What I want to share in today's video are not stock tips, are not buys or sells, but I'm going to be sharing with you certain principles and frameworks that I have incorporated in my investing and trading journey, which have helped me weather these storms. I don't even know how long this storm is going to last. I know it's very early to say whether I weathered the storm or not, but at least help me stay at peace and calm, and hopefully you can take some of these learnings and incorporate them into your investing and trading journey and be better off for it in the longer term, right? So the way I'm going to break this down is into two parts. There are the controllables. These are a set of 5 principles that are put in place, systems that are put in place, which are controllables in my hand and in my family's hand. And the second one are the uncontrollables. These are things that are not in my control directly. However, they have shaped me as a trader and an investor, and therefore I feel it's important for me to transparently share those with you as well. This channel is brought to you by the 01 Media Network by Zerodha. With their support, I'll be helping you spend your money wisely. Okay, let's start with the number 1 on the controllables front. First is asset allocation. Sounds obvious, but let me give you an example of how I practice asset allocation. Number 1, I actually have an Excel sheet which tracks all of my equity and debt instruments, even gold, at a daily level using Google Finance formulas. Now, this gives me a bird's eye view, and I, by the way, made this in COVID, back in 2019, 2020 is when I made this. So that's been updating for the last 5 years, and I can see everything, which gives me a good bird's eye view of how my portfolio is tracking and trending, right? I've not been able to find an app that does this well across all of the different things that I invest in, and so therefore I built my own. Now, this particular bird's eye view showed me that back in September 2024, I was heavily invested in the markets because the markets had run up. Equity had become almost 77% of my portfolio, which was too rich for me, too aggressive for me. So what I did was I sold and trimmed some of those gains and started building a cash position. I went into about 10 to 12% cash back in September. I even wrote about it on my newsletter in the interest of full transparency. And that helped me with 2 things. One, it not only helps you with bear markets where you have some dry powder to invest in the markets, but it also helps you to ride out the bull runs. Because if the bull run, you're not worried that if this bull run ends and the market falls, what's going to happen? No, because if it falls, you're going to invest some more money and then hopefully be in it for the long run, right? So it helps me with both. Having a cash cushion, you could argue, is counterproductive because you're actually wasting opportunity of earning interest on that cash. But I find comfort in just holding on to my winners by that cash position. And in times like this, when the markets are falling so much, that cash position also helps you deploy some of that in names which you might find compelling, right? So that's number 1 on asset allocation. From there, I want to talk about diversification beyond equity also, which is number 2. Over the years, we've invested in the house that we live in. Kudos to my wife. She was the driving force behind this. And I think that has built a base of stability for us. 2, there is also gold. And kudos to Allocation from Weekend Investing, who's drilled this point home in my head that gold is an important asset class that you need to have in your portfolio. He used to make these videos where he showed how gold is a great hedge against the equity markets. Back in 2021, the government was issuing SGBs, encouraging everybody to buy SGBs. Now is a different story. And so I bought a lot of SGBs back then, and that's turned out to be a really good investment. So gold and real estate, in addition to equity and debt, has actually helped me build a stable base, which does not fluctuate as much, is not as volatile as the equity and debt markets, which has helped me and my family in these times. Third one, which I want to talk about, is living below our means. Sounds very basic, sounds very simple. But essentially what I mean is that my wife and I are on the same page here that, look, we don't want a lifestyle inflation to catch up to us. So especially on bigger expenses, we don't want to be making those expenses if we don't need them. We do make expenses on health and fitness and things that we are passionate about, but it's still at a high level, way below our means. And so we end up saving and investing a fair bit of our incomes, which helps in times like this, because even if the markets are falling, at least your automated regular investments are taking place and ongoing, right? So that really gives us the comfort to not get out of the market at times when the markets are oversold. Controllable number 4 on living below your means is also remembering the why. So I did this financial planning exercise back in 2020 where I sat down with a financial planner and we listed down our medium term, long term goals and allocated equity classes, like allocated different asset classes to these long term goals. Remembering the why of that money is in the market is extremely important. And in my case, most of this money is being saved up for my kids' education, which is almost 15 to 20 years away, right? And therefore, if you have that time frame and that time horizon in mind, that here is the goal I'm investing for, and here is the money that is going for that goal. And I don't want to be looking at that money now for the next 15, 20 years, right? And therefore, all of these different, like all of these fluctuations along the way are fluctuations and they will pass, hopefully, right? So I think having a clear idea of the why you started investing and why, what is that money going to be used towards, helps give a good North Star, a guiding light, and therefore it reduces the urge to go ahead and withdraw that money. And you don't get emotional about that money now because you don't need it now. It's paper losses and paper gains. Always remember, like I try and remind myself that these are paper gains and paper losses. Doesn't really make a difference right now. I will need them 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And therefore, keeping that why in my head at all times. Why am I investing in a certain stock? Why am I investing in a certain asset class? What goal is it tied to? Really helps me keep grounded and make sure that I don't panic in these situations. Last controllable is circle of competence. Now here, there are two parts. Circle of competence means that it's basically companies and industries that you are competent in, that you understand slightly better than the average Joe, right? One is identifying that circle of competence, and two is building conviction in that certain circle of competence. So you build this circle, and now in this circle, the companies that are there, you invest in those. You do not step outside of this circle. And all the companies that are in this circle, you make sure that you continue to invest time and energy in understanding more about those companies, right? This helps me with, personally, this helps me weather the storm when the markets turn for the worse, to make sure that I don't get carried away and I don't sell these companies. Now, I'll give you an example. Eli Lilly is a company that is not in my circle of competence. I do not understand pharma. It's a great company outside my circle of competence. I'm getting massive FOMO, was getting FOMO. I did not invest in it, right? One of my friends in the US who's in this space feels very bullish about it. I did not invest in it because it's outside my circle of competence. Similarly, Palantir was outside my circle of competence. I did not invest in it. Mostly, I'm investing in indexes and not stepping outside my circle of competence because of exactly times like this. When the market tumbles, and if you don't have conviction and confidence in these companies, then you will not be able to hold them. At least personally, I know myself, I will not be able to hold them. And therefore, I do not enter into that in the first place. The corollary to this is that if you have faith in your circle of competence and in the company in that circle of competence, then you can actually double down in times when you think it's undervalued. It is also something that you can hold on to for longer period of time and therefore see multiple multi-bagger returns in those companies, right? So I think identifying my circle of competence has been important. To building conviction and constantly questioning conviction in those companies in the circle of competence has been important. And three, not pretending to be a know-it-all, I think is very important. And like market keeps humbling you at all different points in time. And so just taking that in your stride has been helpful to me. Okay, that closes out the controllables. Now let's jump on to the second part of the video, which is the uncontrollables, which are certain factors and experiences that have shaped me as a trader, as an investor. And I want to share those circumstances with you as well. The first uncontrollable is my prop trading days. So basically, long ago, my first job out of college was as a trader, a futures trader at this company called Futures First in Gurgaon, right? And I used to trade US natural gas futures there. Back then, there was a shale gas revolution taking place in the US, and the US natural gas futures fell from $12 to $1 over the course of about 1.5 to 2 years. And all of us were basically buying along the way, that now this has fallen so much, can't go down further, can't go down further. And obviously we did not do very well, right? Lost a lot of money along the way, not our money, the company's money. So I think what that taught me, while losing money is secondary, I think that taught me a lot about myself. It taught me about the emotions that go on in the market, right? Greed versus fear, the psychological impact that trading has on an individual. Your emotions are pegged to how you've done the previous week. Your mood is dependent on how you're doing. So I think I grew a lot from a emotional standpoint, from a psychological standpoint because of that experience. And I was able to dissociate my self-worth with my net worth. And I think that experience has definitely helped shape me as a better investor, as a better individual, as a better trader over the course of the years. So that's number one. Number two is the safety net. And this is a privilege that I have and I want to call it out. There are multiple family members in my household. So there is my wife, there are my parents, there are my wife's parents, and everybody has a source of income. Everybody is working, everybody's earning. And that really helps because if you have a safety net like that, then you're not dependent on your market corpus for your day-to-days, right? You are basically living below your means and you have a market corpus which is tied to your long-term goals, and you have a safety net of multiple household streams of income, which basically helps you weather these storms, right? So I think I also want to call out this safety net that I'm fortunate and privileged to have, which helps me weather these kind of situations slightly better. The last uncontrollable is learning to back myself. And this is a little bit of a work in progress, right? I am developing this, but essentially backing myself means that if the world were to come to a standstill, if financially we were not to go anywhere, can I put my head down, start from scratch and build something all over again? I think having that ability to back myself is something that I'm developing. I have role models around me who have done this on many occasions, and I hope to learn from them and basically continue to back myself that if push comes to shove, I can restart and hopefully, things will be fine, right? So not again, going back to the point, not letting your net worth affect your self-worth is extremely important. And it's something I try and tell myself. And it's something, and again, the other thing also, right? Like if your net worth's too high, you do not want to come across as somebody who has a chip on their shoulder because your self-worth is not associated with net worth. And some of the best people I meet through this channel, I meet a lot of really rich people also. You can tell that they are not a function of their net worth. They are still someone who is humble, who is willing to learn, having that learner's mindset and backing themselves infinitely. And I think that temperament really is something that I'm trying to imbibe, which then if you have that, then it doesn't matter where the market goes, right? You're going to build it again. With that, we come to the end of this video. I don't know when this market is going to end. I don't know if it's going to end. I don't know if this is going to turn for the better. I don't know if Trump is going to retrieve his tariffs. It's all speculation. I don't know where the future is. But hopefully you found a few nuggets here that you can implement in your life. And no matter where the markets go, you should be okay and you should, be better off for it. So thank you and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.